probably favored when we get into the winners match later today. You never know what happens to Deadlock. That's why I got to play the games. But just to give everyone an update on the draft, we are in the middle of writing the draft kind of old school style. It'll still show up, nice and fancy on the stream, but to actually get the raw data, that's right, we've gone back to analog. The players are just messaging each other the pick ban order instead of using a draft program. That's
talking about the draft. I'm talking about these subs we got coming through, man. We got Catty1, Game and Grampy. We got a hype train. Soli OG already missed. Another hype train is Nikki. Thanks guys for all the subs here making the show possible for us. Again, just to remind you guys, it's not like someone's taking all this money and keeping it for themselves. It all goes right back into the product here to give it to our production, to the teams, to make sure we keep putting the show for you guys every single week. But sorry, the drafts of the bands have come through. My bad. Patron Pulverizers take away Paradox, and Pass take away Yamato. I think this is possibly the first time, Dan, we've actually seen a Yamato ban.
That's true. Yeah, it's again, the metas are totally different, and the way that heroes are valued is definitely completely different in North America compared to EU, which is really nice. Don't have any of that globalization happening just yet.
I mean, we have a pocket first pick. Like, but if this is EU, Wraith,
Exactly. Yeah. Well, what are you guys expecting to see? As we've kind of like mentioned, the difference in meta. Let's tee that up a little bit. What are the predominant differences in the meta from EU to NA?
Well, I think Barrage is the one thing that's consistent, as we just saw from Patron Pulverizers with their first pick. I also think Viscous generally is valued a little bit earlier in NA, so if we saw Viscous go here for Patron Pulverizers, I wouldn't be too surprised. Other characters you see a little bit more. Okay, there is the Viscous. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. McGinnis might come in for Pass, but it'd be later in the draft now that Viscous has been picked early in all likelihood. Prior to this week, a lot of Shiv. I don't know if Shiv is still going to be flavor of the month NA-wise. I do, because unless EU is just totally off the mark, which I don't believe is the case, I do think all the nerfs that Shiv got is like slowly pushed him out of the window, especially again if you look at what people are playing in higher MMR ranked and everything else. Maybe it shows up, but it could be a Shivless week here, despite Dan being on the broadcast.
Yeah, well, we got our own. I mean, you guys have Shiv in game, we have Shiv at home.
Need to get the cliff going.
This way.
There you go.
So what I'm curious about is, so we have on Patron Pulverizers, unless the rosters change, which could very possibly happen, we have Wallix. Will we see a Bebop come in potentially? But then on Pass's side, we have Alju. Now you might recognize Alju played with Bottom Barrel. That's what I'm assuming the pocket's going to be for. And as far as I know, he's on trial for the team right now, so he's trying to make a good impression. So with Bottom Barrel kind of separating, that goes back to the Idol team you were mentioning. I think him and Young Calc stuck together and are kind of like reforming to a team that I've heard can actually rival Hydronation. So maybe we'll see them next week.
Or Jason, maybe Hydronation will take two of their players before they can play and repeat history.
It's gonna be a Frankenstein team. Like, 2 players from here, 2 players from here. But going back to the draft here, we do see McGinnis being picked up, and seeing a support kind of pick this early, kind of interesting, I'd say, compared to the EU matches at least, where supports were generally like 4th, 5th, sometimes 6th picked.
Yeah, much more of an afterthought. And I think ZP, you tend to talk about McGinnis the most in terms of the value that McGinnis can provide out of the varying support options, especially over Kelvin, which I think for a long time was, I mean, Kelvin got kind of nerfed quite a lot. So not the Kelvin he once was.
Yeah, I mean, well, Kelvin's kind of interesting where he got hit from all angles. His beam got thrown in the dumpster relative to its 80% glory days. People were doing gun Kelvin, and the devs kind of looked at it and says, no, we're not going to let you just sit here and do gun Kelvin. We're going to nerf the crap out of this. I mean, he's still very good because the utility of his skills are clearly just incredible, right? Frozen Shelter is one of the absolute best skills in the game, both for protection and isolation on pickoffs. But when you think about what you're looking for in the support role, you get a lot from characters like Viscous and McGinnis. Also, McGinnis especially, where if you're behind, McGinnis is probably one of the absolute best characters you can have on your team to secure an earn in the closed-in territory. No one really wants to fight a McGinnis wall in those areas, so McGinnis just has pockets of power in the game that are kind of unrivaled by any other character in the right situation at the right time. EU, not as big on McGinnis in terms of pick priority, but NA usually is by comparison, especially after the last patch.
He's saying NA is smarter than EU.
In this case, I think NA is on the right beat in terms of valuing McGinnis, personally.
Nice.
You cannot
isn't
say,
been picked yet, by the way.
I'm sorry. After today's results, you cannot say that NA is smart. Okay, I will just say that.
I live here now, so I represent. But don't tell me British people. It's too late for them. They won't even see this broadcast. I'm safe.
I'm being a little bit political with my statement, at least. But we are going to see Patron Pulverizers look for their next pick here. I'm pretty sure you guys already know what I'm talking about. I think the McGinnis, though, I love McGinnis way more than I like Kelvin, because I feel like you're going to push into McGinnis, which makes it very difficult because of the wall, but also the turrets. I feel like we haven't really seen like this hybrid support slash like Echo Shard build with McGinnis, where you can put down like 4 or 5 turrets down, and it makes it very difficult to like contest that area. So she kind of gives you zone denial in multiple ways. I don't know if we're ever going to see that, to be honest, but obviously you see it a lot in like ranked games and whatnot. But I always like that kind of McGinnis because it makes your mid boss also extremely easy, because it's already hard to push into there, but then to push into there with so many turrets down. And we finally see a Lash today, and it comes out of NA.
Yeah, it definitely. I definitely expected to see it in NA, like business as usual on the Lash. Perhaps one of the best initiators in the game. Obviously, Paradoxical Swap's kind of nice, but Lash has multiple different tools, and obviously can pick up an entire team as opposed to just picking up one person. So definitely a lot of value there. What I feel like missing from Patron Pulverizers though is like that big carry. And we've already got the kind of big carries here, you know, Pocket and Infernus on the other side, and Wraith has not been selected. It's just so funny how like you watched. I feel like NA just watch one demo of Play With Me on Wraith, and you will understand. You will understand.
So Patron Pulverizer's in the perfect position to pick up Wraith now too. Like, they already have the Viscous. They don't have to worry about the Viscous being used against them. Look, from everything we know, especially on the EU side, the proper pick for Patron Pulverizers next should be the Wraith. Also, as you mentioned, Dan, it fills a hole in their team that they currently do not have. Pass, meanwhile, Warden Bebop. I mean, look, if you put them in the lane together, it's not a bad lane. But, Jason, you're tracking some of the stats overall for Fight Night, and I believe with the last 2 games that Buff Enjoyers had across all regions, Warden right now, for this program specifically, is 2-7. Warden has not had a good time in terms of win rate thus far, and again, very dependent on a mid-game timing window, and I'd argue even more so if you're running the Bebop, who also tends to fall off if the game goes long. So right now, you've already kind of set a story here where even though you have the Infernus who scales well late, the fact that you've invested in the Warden and Bebop, I feel like for Pass means that they need to wrap this thing up by around 20 minutes, or it's going to get progressively worse for them.
On that note of Warden, our two of the heroes that have had the most losses so far are Warden and Pocket, both with 14 losses each. Though Pocket has 7 wins and Warden has 4. Bebop, let me quickly look.
Isn't Bebop also a loser? Do we have like a collection of losers? Like, what's happening here?
Bebop, 1 win, 4 losses. He technically has the lowest win rate of 14%, but he also has only 5 matches being played. So
damn, okay, they're on hard mode.
I was surprised to see Bebop not go the other way though for Wallix, unless he's not playing. I was maybe expecting that to see some hyper beam action, but yeah, your boy Shiv, Dan.
Yeah. So again, if you're just joining us, we were sort of talking about how obviously Shiv got nerfed pretty hard on the last major patch, and we saw the following week we saw some Shiv play continue, but that sort of got phased out this week in EU. They just didn't prioritize them at all. They have a lot of extremely good Shiv players, so just it looks like from that they've decided that he's fallen off at the moment. So getting Shiv on 6 pick and then Wraith is a 6 pick, that's it's just, I don't know how to process this, but hey, you know, that's where we're at.
Well, welcome to America. Welcome to the North Americas, to be specific, is all I have to say for that. Do I think Wraith should be valued at pick number 6? No. Is that where we're at? Yes. And looking between the two teams, look, by conventional wisdom right now, yes, there are ways that Pass can win going into this game. I mean, Pocket could be an absolute menace in early roaming, and Warden and Bebop, if you put them in a lane together, also very scary. In general, very early the mid-center team with an Infernus just because for Pass. Patron Pulverizers, though, not necessarily a weak composition early, and if it goes late, I feel like they just win. So in terms of win conditions right now, between the two teams, I definitely give the draft to Patron Pulverizers, and I also think that it's a very tough road for Pass.
Yeah, I think Patron Pulverizers definitely have more of a complete roster. I think Pass, they do obviously have that potential of just one random hook could potentially win you a big team fight if you can catch them out and get them locked down. Like, pair that with a wall, it can be extremely deadly. I think if Pass want to do well, they obviously need to get like Bebop going, need to play with the power spike from Warden, and then of course make Shiv be very impactful in like the early to mid game to be able to win this match.
Nice. It's gonna be interesting. I really like the Shiv, Bebop, Warden, and Pocket. They've all gotten nerfed to high heavens recently. It's just going to be very interesting to see how they can make it work, especially against Patron Pulverizers, who definitely feel like they have a much more rounded comp. They definitely have the support elements. You've got Abrams, who's more of a front line. You've got a good initiation. You've got good farming, and you've got like a good like split pusher, like in Mirage, good like general damage output, and you've got your hyper carry and Wraith. So that feels pretty rounded to me. What are the win conditions for you, ZP? I know Jason was sort of just mentioning his to an extent. For you, where are the win conditions for both of these teams?
Well, look, I think the win conditions for Pass is that they have to get ahead early. They need the Bebop to become a monster. They need the Warden to hit the mid-game power spike. And on top of all this, they have to manage the early game in a way that it funnels a lot of farm to Shiv, because even though Shiv has been nerfed, Shiv is still in the category of feels pretty bad to fight if he's ahead of you, feels pretty hilarious to fight the other end if you're way ahead of him, right? So there's certain conditions that Pass must do at every part of the game. And also in terms of what's going to do it is that I also think they need a pretty active pocket roam game here on top of all of it. Meanwhile, for Patron Pulverizers, I think to an extent it just sort of survive. They have plenty of self-sufficiency tools here, and team fight wise, I don't think they have to. It's not on them to make moves, it's on Pass. But Jason, any final thoughts before we send you to the abyss?
Other than I see you in Seagull's chat. No, that's it. Let's have a good match.
All right, Patron Pulverizers versus Pass. This is the play-in. This is the best of one, and the winner of this match is going to go up against Hydronation for the finals. They are undefeated, so we'll have to see if one of these two teams will be the ones to dethrone them today. Now, ZP, now that we're getting into the action, I'm curious on what the Bebop build might be, because we've seen two takes on it. We've seen, we'll get the names updated at the top for you, but we've seen it be the case that Bebop either goes the Hyper Beam build, which is what Walex preferred when he was using his Bebop, or it's like a heavy hook build.
Dan, I just have to say, I mean, yes, the Bebop hook stuff is going to be interesting, but I don't like lane 1. I look at lane 1, and I've been on both sides of that. I've watched players on both sides of that. Holy God, putting Warden in the solo lane versus Abrams, you can survive, but you have to play perfectly. That is going to be Yagu's lane to lose, and by comparison, you know, I feel like this is something for Mercedes. Mercedes should be calling for rotations early. Like, this is a lane where I feel like you go to Lash and you go, or rather not Lash, but you go to a Pocket and you say, please, come on over here sooner rather than later. I need the help.
Yeah, okay, that's a really good story to keep our eyes on. And we got the Mirage in the solo lane against the Infernus instead of having the Wraith there, for example. What are your feelings on that? Any strong feelings towards the choice between the Wraith or the Mirage?
Here, I think I'd rather have the Mirage in the solo lane, and Mirage versus Infernus, I mean, that's a pick'em. It truthfully can go either way. Both can be bullying in their own right. Maybe a slight edge to the Mirage, depending on the players involved, but that is a pretty honest lane matchup. The Warden-Abrams matchup, basically, there's a million ways that Mercedes can lose it, and by comparison to Yagu just has to play solid, and opportunities may just appear.
Yeah, and one thing that's interesting for me is that obviously Wraith, we think about Wraith as this hyper carry. Okay, you want your Wraith, like any hero in that description, to have a good early game. And I feel like this is a dangerous lane. You know, you've got the hook, you've got the wall, so there's a lot of potential to get picks from the abilities of both the McGinnis and the Bebop. Oh, nice pull with the hook. I don't know if he wanted to pull a play. He's so low, but hey, it worked out. Got some good chunky damage in there as well. So we'll have to see you know, how that dynamic is going to play out there, ZP. But for me, it feels dangerous to be a Wraith.
Yeah, I mean, look, Wraith, the reality is with Wraith is versatile enough. You can play her in the 1 or the 4, or you can play her in a duo, 2 or 3. I mean, cards are scary regardless if it's duo or solo. Still has, like, really good last-hitting ability. And also, speaking of rotations, this is just cruel. It's already a tough a matchup for the Warden, and you got Lash just creeping up on top, going, yep, I'm a slam on in, lands a slam, lands a flog. Damage coming in at the same time, and Abrams not necessarily there to help on the fall through, but just losing that amount of HP, Dan, now means that Abrams can freeze out the lane and just prioritize his better gun.
It looks like Warden has a friend. The big brother's arrived. He's like, he's been picking on you at school. I'll get him. And then well, there's not too much to be done. So looks like LG's going to actually fall off. I feel like I built that up and it's amounted to really nothing. So that's great.
Just feast. It was Lash who started that out there, Dan, with the damage onto the Warden, and again, it just puts it a mission impossible where you either die or get repeatedly denied, or get repeatedly denied and die. Like, there wasn't a lot of great options for Warden in that situation, I'm gonna be honest.
Absolutely, yeah. It's got a brutal lane, to be sure. Okay, wall goes out. And it does definitely seem like McGinnis and Bebop definitely having a nice time with this lane. You can just tell by the positioning. And also, I suppose, also the health of their opponents. Not having a good time over there on lane 3. Now, it does feel like Patron Pulverizers somewhat across the board here have, except that Bebop McGinnis lane, like pretty good lanes. And here's a dive coming through, actually. Nice opening there from Alju, taking down Zirbzy on the 7. Looking for another full-up as well, but... Okay, Salty's able to escape with almost no health remaining. Or rather, sorry, Walex, that is.
Barely getting out there, and Furnace under pressure. It's going to be poshypop on the Mirage, just landing a few extra hits of damage there. But you look at overall at the lane, slight edge right now for the Mirage. Infernus, though, easily able to bring it back. Also, we're hearing the in-game voice.
I know, it's brilliant, isn't it?
I
can't wait till the F-bombs start flying.
I was talking through it, and it was just, you know, they're using in-game voice.
It's uncensored, it's raw. Anything could happen at this show. That's why you should be watching and subscribing and everything. Okay, so we get the dive coming through, but it looks like a disengage. Not messing around with McGinnis' ult. Uh-oh, the bouncers are not working out. There's no way Goober survived.
Well, Goober playing Viscous, which, by the way, very apropos name, I should say, does just manage to roll away. But yeah, you see the pressure coming in here on lane 3. And for now, you still have to be really careful going against McGinnis in this situation. It's still easy to go a little bit far up, get walled off, and things just end poorly.
And it's kind of cool though. Like, you know, normally you'd also like just to cut into the team comms, but here at Deadlock Fight Night, we just have them on, and the players probably don't even realize his EP. So that's how you make sure that it's like really raw.
You know who doesn't realize it? Warden. You got Lash on top. Well, Pocket is on the rotate whiff. So okay, Pocket was saying, hey, look out. The Lash is back. He's on his stuff again, Dan. So it is gonna scare off the gank attempt from the back as Alju just continually bouncing between lane 1 and 2.
Yeah, and after all is said and done, we've obviously painted a picture whereby Patron Pulverizers are definitely taking some edges, getting some good ganks already. The Abrams Warden matchup seems to be a desperate one, and all of these different factors we talked about. Yet the salt differential is actually even, and there's no objectives that have been taken just yet. So good work here for Pass to be able to hold on to this game and keep it in good contention, despite some of these early scenarios that haven't been super favorable for them.
Yeah, most of the drama's been lane 1, where it's continuing now, as you see both Warden and Pocket getting into it. Abrams down and dirty, last stand, but Abrams in a rough spot. The binding word connects, and it's Mercedes with 2 in lane 1. The dive and gank not successful, and talk about an express ticket back into the game there, Dan, for Mercedes. He was down almost 1K, now pretty much evened up with Yagu. Yeah,
I absolutely love that. I think that's one of those engagements that has kind of had to happen to continue to keep this game close. We don't want the Warden, if you're Pass, to fall off early. That's like the worst thing that could happen. And we've got Wraith coming across to lane 4 to assist in the Mirage versus Infernus battle. So Patron Pulverizers remaining active here. However, that's drawn some attention. We've got the Bebop and the McGinnis of Pass looking for the Warden and looking to potentially create more problems here on lane 4. There's a nice lift coming through. The sticky bomb is connected. They're getting punched out, and Wraith is going to go down. The trade, though, is there as Bebop also gets taken out. So Pass and Patron Pulverizers coming away from this one somewhat even.
It's looking like a super clean telekinesis gank, and Bebop lives long enough to get the uppercut, and the chase down's still in progress here. poshypop not able to evade the pocket for too long. But now we go back to lane 1. The hunt for Warden continues. Lash back on the rooftops. It's kind of like evil Batman here that Warren has had to deal with the entire time. You're criminal in Gotham, you look to the rooftops, you go, oh man, this ain't good.
Love it.
On cooldown.
All right, well, looking to defend the Guardian here. Oh, hello. Abrams is in there. Slap straight to the face, and the charge comes through. And somehow we get the whiff, but Seismic Slam to surely finish this one off. Warden is just sent to space. And one of the Falcon rockets. But he's not coming back, though, even though they have the technology.
No. The return technology just failed in this instance. But we get Bill, Shiv. Getting under hot pursuit here. Multiple lane gets the parry, but it's not going to be quite enough, Dan, as just too many people there. The parry sends a message, but not much more.
Will be complete in no time. Very
true. We get 3 players on both lane 2 and 3 for Patron Pulverizers as they try to pressure these objectives. Going into this the 9 to 10 minute mark is interesting because the teams are starting to take more of the Guardians and they're starting to set up for the urns and the bridge buffs. And hello, Binding Word, they have to run away, but look at that gun go. This is top tier. It's a top tier gun, isn't it, ZP? We love this on Warden.
Well, look, it works out well. He landed slowing Hex to start that out. Lash couldn't grapple the safety at all, and he's still walking on in there is Mercedes. But now you see the rotation coming on in. Viscous saying, all right, calm it down a bit. Both teams looking to reset, and you look between the two teams right now, Dan, 44k to 46k. Specifically, though, you look to the hero farm, it's also pretty even. The most farmed player on Patron Pulverizers is your Viscous. However, it is a little bit worrying when you look at the least farmed on Pass, and Salty on the Shiv, not quite on the trajectory you'd want for a Shiv at 10 minutes into the game.
That's a great point, actually. But we do want to see the Warden get active as possible. Mercedes will get, no choice in the matter. Getting thrown into the Guardian. Gets taken down immediately. Trades, though. Algae coming in to take out the Lash while X is out. And the fight continues here as Patron Pulverizers try to continue the action. Obviously, the pursuit off of the Viscous is strong. Puddle Punch into a mid-air combo with the primary fire. The Divine Shield comes
Still going.
Just persist, and it's beautiful there from poshypop. And from Goober on the Viscous. Great work to follow up. And that's 51k to 50k souls, so still pretty close on the souls.
Look, Dan, at this point, I think I'm emotionally invested into the idea of a player named Goober having a great game on Viscous. To me, it's far too fitting. But look, Goober's been in the right place, right time thus far for Patron Pulverizers. And, look, hey, Viscous or no, I still do a lot of damage. I can chase this down and make it work.
We should get Goober on the payroll that doesn't exist, because then we could have get gooped by Goober.
Yeah, that's true. Signature. Look, 1 year from now, when they end up being the best Viscous in Deadlock, that's a signature collection right there.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm sorry I interrupted you with that nonsense. Please go ahead.
No, we add on to it here. But now, 10-minute earn is in play, Dan. 57k, 54k. 10-minute earn, not as impactful as 15-minute and beyond. Oftentimes, teams will use it as a bargaining chip to get push in. The question is going to be for Pass, what do you do in this instance? Do you contest on neutral? Do you go for Guardians or Walker? How do you play it? What is your investment here? Because that's what the 10-minute earn really is to me. It's an investment of resources between both teams. And the earn is just kind of the playing chip that you use to set it all up.
Yeah, in terms of game design and so on, in competitive games, you often want to have some mechanic that forces the teams to move. That's very important, and the Earn is really the epitome of this, as both teams are now wondering how do we approach this? We don't have information. Obviously, there's the fog of war, so you can't see where all of your opponents are. But obviously, after 20 seconds of holding the Earn, it pops up on the map, so you get that info at the very least. And it looks actually like Warden might be in for a sore face once again, as he's getting pummeled at the moment by Lash. Last Stand comes out to keep himself alive. And that actually, I don't know, there's 4 players in pursuit here. They really, really want to kill Mercedes. I don't know why their hatred is so strong, but hey, it is what it is.
Been on the receiving end of a lot of these rotations. Telekinesis now, though, onto Bebop. As you see Spooky try and get away, and no, the damage from Wraith overwhelming in the moment. But now Infernus coming on in, drops a concussive combustion, fire now onto Wraith. Wraith turning back with the Mirage. And both teams now saying, okay, that's enough, we're done. And it's Patron Pulverizers, Dan, that end up ahead on both sides of the map with the rotations that were coming into play there. But also, tough times for Warden, where there's a world where you can trade out with Last Stand, but not when the person you're going on to that you could have kept up with and regained your life gets cubed. Viscous just, again, ruining the day for Pass.
Yeah, Viscous such a, I think you said earlier, such an important playmaker. I'm not sure if it was you or Jason, but yeah, really in a very, I feel like must-pick hero. Just so many amazing options. So the sole difference, I think, looks worse than it perhaps is. Obviously, one Walker is there for Patron Pulverizers in advantage against Pass. There's only a 6k difference. But with that said, the urn is going to be collected. It's a neutral drop-off location. Oh, narrow miss from the hook. That would have been fantastic. Would have been a really big pick to get. But alas, it is not to be, and it doesn't look like ZP. There is positioning here for Pass to defend against this urn. They're going to go for a push instead, so they're trading.
Yeah, and the trade-out makes a good amount of sense. Also, you talk about early game scenarios here. It hasn't been the biggest game for Bebop in terms of big game-changing hooks here thus far. Also in terms of items, Mercedes going Surge Power first, Binding Word onto Mirage. And Mirage is saying, nope, 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 do not want a part of that. Urn gonna get turned in, and the price for this urn, Dan, looks to be a walker, perhaps. But Pass, they haven't gotten it just yet, and they might be losing their opportunity to get it uncontested. In fact, they don't want to stay here at all.
Indeed. And, you know, Jason is taking his turn being the man on the street. He has indicated to us that Wraith has collected the Tesla bullets.
And that's going to be a slower burn then for Scout. Patron Pulverizer saying we're fine with this game going late. That makes sense, given what we've talked about team comps. Last stand being channeled by Mercedes, and it wasn't much of a stand there, Dan. It was a, I'm going to channel this and then instantly die, is often the case. Telekinesis meanwhile onto the Infernus. Heavy damage in from Scout. Quick pick off and done. And now if you're Pass, this is starting to become a trend where Scout gets Telekinesis, walks in, and now has enough damage to blow someone up, even in Tesla Bullets build. So a solution needs to be found for that, or at least caution needs to be employed.
Yeah, it feels so rough with Warden. It feels like should, you know, submit a bullying in the workplace complaint or something, because it really feels like Mercedes is getting singled out so often in this game.
Once we get singled out.
Oh, that's, oh, not over the wall. And is there an escape possible? Yes, just about. I mean, look how many people are ready to just destroy that player that got hooked. And that's just ridiculous. That, I mean, that wall, imagine, can you actually get it over the wall? Sometimes it looks like you can, sometimes it doesn't look like you can. It's just very odd, very hard to predict. But this push should be rejected. They are forced to fall back because of the beginning assault there, ZP.
Yeah, I mean, Heavy Barrage comes in and slows things down a bit. And hey, to the last shot, it's all a matter of elevation, Dan. You just gotta be high enough to cross the wall. In that case, was a little bit off. But now you look at Wraith, Shadow Weave has now been bought, and the income of Scout definitely going to be a bit of a problem, because as was seen from our EU games today, once you get to a point where Wraith is able to eat the jungle with impunity with Tesla Bullets, and now has Shadow Weave as an option, well, guess what? This is now threat number one, and I'm curious for Pass if they start investing in Ethereal, because they should. You need Veils versus this. You need to not be free every time Telekinesis is off cooldown.
Alju is doing a great job in keeping his farm up at the moment, which is definitely a must on the pocket. I mean, Alju especially is quite the specialist. So, you know, the way that we were talking about play with me, you know, for Pass, Alju could be that player for them. I know he's trialing on the team. But that said, usually when players trial on teams, they overperform. So hopefully that is the case here today for Alju.
Dan, is that your GM experience coming in, where you're just like, oh yeah, this player looked really good in Trouts. Now I've signed him to a contract. Oh God, what happened here? Like, I've been sold a false bill of goods. I don't know. It seemed a little bit personal.
It's just this funny thing that I don't think people know about as much, that like, especially in like Counter-Strike and Valorant and so on, there's a common complaint that teams have where they hate, like coaches hate trialing, because like the player that they see in the trial is not often the player that exists outside of the trial. So like, you know, on their best behavior and all that, and then they're actually a bit of a menace, you know, outside of that environment. So yeah.
Yeah, day one of the player's like, oh, thank you, man. It's fine you missed that ult. Day 10, how dare you? You know, you're the worst player ever. Get off my team. But speaking of get off, Mirage right now trying to get off this planet under heavy pressure. But here we go once again. Telekinesis going to the pocket, who was able to get to a safe spot. Meanwhile, Goober into the fray on the goo ball. Quick Q. Poshypop still caught by Mercedes. Goober dive gun in. Braeden looking for the exit. Stun back and forth now. Returns fire onto the Viscous. And it's past Dan. Getting the better of this so far. McGinnis off the top rope, literally. Heavy barrage in play, looking for the Wraith. As Wraith falls in turn, Patron Pulverizers getting crushed by Pass as Pass finds their way back into the game and then some.
Wow, that is just so great for Pass. They've done so much good work here. Now, of course, there is perhaps, I mean, can they defend the Walker on lane 1 here, Patron Pulverizers? Zirbzy doesn't really want to have anything to do with it, it seems. So a Walker goes also to Pass. So interestingly, it's really felt like Pass have not been in a good position for most of this game. And if you really look at how desperately bullied Mercedes has been on the Warden as well, that prospect, you know, we've talked about how keeping Warden down can just really make the hero somewhat useless. So many things seemingly going against Pass, but yet still. And also, we brought up all the stats as to the fact that most of these heroes that they have chosen have like the lowest win rate percentage in Deadlock Fight Night. So everything's working against them, but they're finding ways to succeed.
Look at this stealth bebop, looking for the hook onto the 7. No, off to the right. 7 had no idea the bebop was there and just thought there'd be a dodge. Doesn't happen. But I do love the Shadow Weave bebop build. You know, it's something that's actually been in Deadlock for a while. Wallux was terrorizing people with it months ago. Don't see it a whole lot, but often can be very playmaking, Dan.
Yeah, that's very interesting to see. It's not a build I think that we've seen so far from the bebops. We've seen again like hook builds and the Wallux hyper beam builds, but haven't seen the Shadow Weave yet. So that's a nice little wrinkle to the different ways that you can build bebop. And the hook is definitely a very good ability overall in terms of, you know, let's say like if you guys are familiar with Dota, Dendi initially making his name with Pudge because if you're really good with the hook, it makes that hero kind of S tier in certain respects. So, but to be that good with the hook, it requires insane game sense.
We're gonna get some heavy breathing from Seagulls, but hold that thought. Scout just picked off. It's a little bit of a back and forth here in the lane 4. Now looking to Braeden on the Infernus, trading out shots with the 7. Concussive Combustion over and in, says get over here, burn to cinders. However, Infernus now under pressure in turn. The life leech though, incredible, Dan. And Pass still making this a good fight for themselves. Braeden not done yet, looking for the Viscous. More pressure on the Viscous. Parry not gonna amount to anything. And Infernus, Dan, kind of coming online.
Yeah, Braeden doing a really good job there, and this is going to be a problem. And are they going into mid boss here? That is cheeky. That is very cheeky. You know, Scout's going to be up pretty quickly. Zirbzy is going to be up reasonably quickly. Will there be a challenge here? They can definitely go for it if they want to. There is time to do it, but actually the mid lanes are actually really under control of Pass, so it's actually a bit too hard, it seems, to get there in time. So that is very unfortunate. Really good call though from Pass to immediately go for the mid boss. Wall comes up just to make sure that they can get that rejuve. No weird steal attempts to come into play. And suddenly, after all of this, I say, which is the last 20 minutes, Pass are in a 15k soul lead and they've got the rejuve. They're going to have full map control.
They've really brought things back, and now you take a look at how that developed too. The reason why the mid-boss call was such an easy call is that even though you had members of Patron Pulverizers coming back up, they were drained on ultimates. I don't even think Scout was going to have telekinesis back up by the time the Rejuvenator was coming down. It was very, very close in any case. So even if they wanted to try and contest, they just didn't have the resources to do it, Dan. But it does make this next urn interesting because I think it's at the point where, yes, it is going to be in Patron Pulverizer territory. And Pass, you've had some good team fights here, but overconfidence is killer, and trying to go in for this urn turn in, even with the McGinnis on your team, you got to be careful going into enemy territory.
This is going to be very interesting indeed. With the last stand up, it should be a fun one for Warden. It's about time for Mercedes to have some fun in this game. Now we'll get this Walker down as Pass are able to fully abuse that rejuve buff. And okay, yeah, we'll take another Walker as well. So Walker number 2 looking to be taken down also. I don't think there's anything that can really be done to stop this. It is going to go for Pass. So picking up those 2 Walkers. And do they want to try to get the urn as well? I mean, that is another good objective. Wraith and the other is on lane 2 here, just trying to take down a Walker in exchange. And actually going to pick it up. So really good play there.
And Scout says, I want to take this fight, Shiv. What are you doing? I'm going to fight back. Lays in the damage. Shiv, though, pretty tanky. Uses return fire. Scout perhaps questioning going for that to begin with. Now you see everyone rotating in here, the lane 2. Scout can't get away from the pressure. So you wonder there for Scout, he was trying to kind of min-max the telekinesis, but maybe it would have been better to just drop the telekinesis and run. Earn, though, in contest. Spooky able to take down Goober. Patron Pulverizers down 2 as Pass ram the Urn in.
And now that's a 20k soul lead, and they've taken down all of the walkers as well, so they have obviously an advantage on the flex slot, and they're going to be taking some more here. They still have a rejuve to burn, and it's definitely worth trying to go for this. They've got 2 opposing players down at the moment. Both the Wraith and the Viscous are not here to do anything, so might be able to take a Shrine as well.
I mean, this is also potential game winning. You have everyone with rejuve in stock. If you get picked off or stagger here, the game is over. Even with this difference, I do think you can fight back at a 30k difference in this situation, but you have to be measured. Both Shrines going down. I think Pass stays here for first stage Patron. You have rejuve. I don't think they want to full back just yet. However, it is the option they're going for, Dan. It's a little bit more conservative of a play call, but with Lash being on the other side, that might be the logic. However, the chase down's happening, and we'll see how this works.
Indeed, and one of the reasons this might work is because you got that bebop hook. But hold that thought, you know, that's not going to come into play. We've got just full engagement coming in as Patron Pulverizers try to move outside the base to pursue. It looks like Pass were ready to do that and just in a concave, but they're looking to take the fight against them. And this is a little precarious now. Okay, so the rejuve has worn off, but if you are Patron Pulverizers, you have to be very cautious when you move out the base like that, because your opponents can have a much better positional engagement. That's something that a lot of teams try to do. They'll make you think that you're disengaging, when in reality you disengage for a little bit and you set up in sort of an encirclement type maneuver, and then they come into your grasp and you kill them all. So you got to avoid that.
For Patron Pulverizers, they walked out. Sometimes teams are kind of messy when they disengage, right? They're hoping, okay, maybe they're just like not in the proper position, and maybe there's an opportunity for Wallachs to come in on the Lash, get a good death slam, and open something up. It didn't quite work out that way. Both teams able to walk away relatively unscathed, but take a look at Scout right now. Going in for the telekinesis, that's exactly what we're seeing. Besides Warden, let's dance here one more time. Death Slam, telekinesis, Death Slam. The punishment on the Mercedes continues where, look, Mercedes is nothing but durable this game, but that's a bit much, Dan.
It does seem, it really, you just got to feel for Mercedes. I feel like we should give Mercedes the MVP in the grand finals, just to like, I don't know, just needs to get some kind of a win today.
No, determination award, Dan. Determination. Perseverance is like, gets knocked down, gets back up.
That's true. That's true. And I mean, Patron Pulverizers is going to be able to pick up an urn off of the back of that engagement where they get those 2 kills. So converting it, and that's going to close the soul gap a little bit. Now they've got to close the gap on the walkers, which they're currently trying to do. They've got that push now in action, potentially on lane 4. Depends on how much they like it or not, as to whether they'll keep going for it. Mid boss is in a couple of minutes, so that's something we're going to be keeping our eyes on now. And indeed, they're actually going to fall back from that lane 4 push. Perhaps they were expecting some reaction and rotation from their opponents, then they kind of quickly zip out.
Well, I think the key thing here too, as you look at the rotations, look at the overall state of the game. The fact that gank into lane 3 onto the Warden set up Patron Pulverizers to get the urn, and what was once a 30k deficit now, Dan, is a mere 16k at 27 minutes. That's effectively nothing. That's effectively an even game. So Patron Pulverizers are right back in it, but do they realize the terror of Spooky here, looking for the hook? Grabs the Mirage, curses the Mirage, sets up the sticky bomb. The fall through's there, but he's able to tornado away, Dan.
That was so close. Yeah, you got Alju as well, who was in hot pursuit, but and he ended up getting blocked. And Alju is what I don't think we've mentioned yet, has the soul rebirth, so we'll be able to come back alive after going down. That's actually at this stage of the game where the respawn timers are huge. That's a pretty huge pickup. Oh, nice catch!
It's real nice, but punishment is perhaps nicer, where you got me, but did you want me, is the real question that Spooky has to be asking there. And now, Patron Pulverizers looking to take advantage. Bebop out of the fight. Zirbzy, a little bit of danger here on the 7, low HP, ground slam coming on in from Wallachs. See Pocket gets stunned into the corner by Abrams. Down he goes. Patron Pulverizers wounded though across the board. Salty gets one with the killing blow. And this could be killing blow after killing blow if Patron Pulverizers is not careful.
And Alga's back up because of the Soul Rebirth as well, so that's going to enable them to continue the aggression. And let's, again, I was about to say, let's not forget mid-boss. So mid-boss, they can actually start trying to take down the mid-boss because of the positional advantage, and they could play it for a bait, or they could just go for it. What should they be doing here, ZP? Which one do you want to see?
Well, they're going for it. They don't have to worry about the Death Slam. Barrage is saying, look, they're inside mid. I just don't know if they're in position to get a good contest here. You take a look at where they're at. I think they want to contest it if they can get there in time. But the Rejuve is already coming on down. It's going to be Wallach coming in raw. Does not have the ultimate in play. Wall is out. Who's going to be secured by Pass? Secures it. Comes on in. Patron Pulverizers not able to steal. They lose Zirbzy in return. 2 down. They get McGinnis in turn, but Patron Pulverizers is falling one by one, Dan. And with all the damage that's already been done, this could be game.
It's only looking that way, almost wiping the entire team. Just Yagi on the Abrams are remaining. And let's not forget the damage that was done previously here from Pass. They should be able to finish this one off now. The respawns are just too long, and the Patron will go down in 10 seconds to get it to the pits in the weakened form. And I have to say, I wasn't expecting this to be the result, ZP.
No, not with how it started, but Pass showed incredible durability. Patron Pulverizers is not going to have people up, so it is going to be Pass likely moving on here to fight Hydra Nation. And I just wonder, Dan, given the level of income between the two teams, I don't think Patron Pulverizers had the all-in for mid-boss contest there. I think they could have held back. They didn't have Death Slam up. They were down on ults. Their positioning wasn't really in time. But in the end, it doesn't matter. This is Pass taking it over Patron Pulverizers, leading to their winners match coming on up versus Hydra Nation.
Yo, does Algae get the spot then? Does Algae get the spot on the team? That was a great win, and that's sending them to the grand finals against Hydra Nation. And I gotta say, you know, I'm very curious to see how that's gonna look, because to me, ZP, this felt like Pass was getting bullied in the ways that you would expect would then lead to them